Hi, my name is Bruce Bolger, I'm the founder of the Enterprise Engagement Alliance, and we're committed to helping organizations of all size optimize their performance through their people, all their people, customers, employees, distribution and supply chain partners, communities, anyone who touches their business. And one of our major focuses for the rest of my life is going to be on the topic covered by Jack and Phillips and Patty Phillips of the ROI Institute, who I think are doing among the most important work in business today. And the fact that it's better known, I think, reflects the fact that it isn't better known, I think, reflects the fact that business is driving with one eye on the road. And that's what we're going to talk about for the next 30 minutes. So quickly, I couldn't fit on a slide all the books that Jack and Patty have written on all aspects of measurement. And the one that isn't here that I really love is their book on the ROI of marketing, which one can say not. Most marketing is not measured. Again, go to their website and you will see a wealth of information. There's no excuse not to embark on measurement. We humbly only focus on the specific areas of implementation of stakeholder management, aligning and harmonizing the interests of all your stakeholders. And of course, the EEA is full of free information, like the great information we're going to get today through the generosity of Jack and Patty for giving their time to learn all about implementation. And yes, of course, we have a chapters on ROI, but the authorities on ROI are the people on this show. So I am now going to stop this share, hopefully. And Jack and Patty, as you can tell, I'm a big fan, I won't lie. And I want to spend the next 35 minutes learning from you or to share with our audience how we can all stop driving with only one eye on the road, because that's what I think most businesses are doing. Maybe you disagree. So, Jack, I think I'm only going to throw it to you first. I think you might have been there a little earlier than Patty. I don't know. Correct me. But could you tell us why you and Patty started the ROI Institute?
Well, actually, the very first study we did was at the request of a senior executive. And at that time, I was working on a master's degree in statistics, and I used it for my thesis project. And but what I saw coming from that, I was showed the value of a co-op program in a major organization. It was Lockheed Martin now. Uh, and they have co-op students there alternating work in school, and I was the co-op director.
Hmm.
I was asked by the chief engineer, who actually paid for all of this because it's a recruiting program for engineers. He asked me one day, so what's the ROI of this program? We can recruit other ways, so and it's costing a lot for us to do this. And when a co-op student worked in a department, that salary is actually charged to me, and I just forwarded these charges to the chief engineer. So I did the ROI study there. Just a long story short, at the end of that study, we presented it to the CEO, to the chief engineer and his division managers. And there were three conclusions that he said very clearly. He said, so it looks like this is a good program. It's delivering good value. So let's keep it. Now, he didn't tell me he's thinking about killing it, but when he started asking about the cost of something and the ROI, everybody thinks they're going to kill it. And second, he says, Jack just told us some things we could do to make this a better program. So it's already a great program. Let's make it a better program. And so I got process improvement. And third, he says, oh, welcome Jack to your departments. Consider him a business partner of ours, would you? So that helped me later. I went from that job to head of advanced technology learning, and that's the people I needed to work with. So what I got out of that was budget, process improvement, and business partners that respected what I had just done. And that's really probably three main outcomes of this. And when we put more structure around this and made it systematic, put some very conservative, credible standards around it, kept working with it and doing it, and finally had our first book on this in the learning field. And it was a handbook of training, evaluation, and measurement methods. in 1983. It's a long time. Bruce, you had a lot of hair back then.
Yeah,
So
but I was beginning to be thinking about the same issues back then as
yeah,
well.
yeah, I
That's how
can
far
imagine.
back I go.
Yeah. So I, and then Patty and I took this business public about 30 years ago because we saw a need for this in a big way. It worked with us internally, but we said, "Hey, this is really a something we need to push out," and we did. And we've been operating the ROI Institute ever since. So we work in 70 countries now. We've got a little over 100 books. Our books are in 38 languages. We got 100 consultants, and you put all that together, we're making progress. But as you suggested, we're just at the tip of the iceberg here, and we need to see more of this. And we can tell you what gets in the way as we talk through this
Well, hold on. I
process.
would like you to stop for a minute because I want to don't lose that thought. I want
Yeah,
to talk to Patty for a minute.
yeah,
Because Patty, you've been watching this journey from a slightly different perspective, right? Every couple, whether they're partners in business or partners in other ways or both. Um, when you look back on all of these years and how logical what you are doing is, to what extent do you think businesses today really understand the impact of their people in business decision and really understand, really try to understand the impact of these human resources efforts, marketing efforts, motivational events, which, by the way, they can cost $20 million. I know a company that spends $20 million on recognition, and I suspect it doesn't do a darn thing. So let me ask you this. I'm sorry, I'm a New Yorker. I can exaggerate. But so, Patty, how much progress have we really made in the aspirations of your company when you were founded in 1983?
I mean, I think progress has been made, but as Jack said, there's still a long way to go because, we do still treat events as what they are, events, in the hope that something good will come out of it, right? So, but as we say around the house, hope is not a strategy, although that's what we use. So we invest in these events. We think we're doing good by our people by investing in them. We think we're doing good by our organizations and our community. But when, money gets tight, we know what happens. Events go away, training goes away, development goes away. And that's when you really know that the decision makers don't know the value of what they're doing. We have clients who have demonstrated value in such a way that their funding didn't go away when everyone else around them did. So progress has been made. But I remember getting involved with this. So I'd worked about 13 years in electric utility, and one of my last jobs was head of market planning research. So it was economists, planners, and researchers. That's who made up our team. And when I left, I was not so much, I mean, I wasn't not a fan of events and human resources and L&D, but I just never really saw the value in it because I came from a different perspective. I came from the business side. And there were times when we would reach out to training and development, for example, for help, and they would turn us down. That's not what we did. Here's what we do. We do 7 habits. We do dress for success, but we are not going to help market planning and research develop a program that is going to serve the needs of commercial sales reps out in the field who are dealing with the customers. I mean, that was the attitude back then. So when I left and met Jack, the mutual friend, I met Jack the first time you ever meet Jack, and you know this, you're going to walk away with a stack of books. So I met Jack for breakfast, and it was going to be an hour, and I almost didn't go. It was going to be an hour. And sure enough, I got there. We had breakfast. He had a stack of books. We stayed there for 4 hours talking about this whole idea of demonstrating the impact and the ROI of investing in people and programs and projects and marketing and training and HR. And it was that 1983 handbook is the book that he sent home with me. And I started reading that book and I thought, well, this is nothing but good research. It's just applied in a context that I had not seen. Well, the more I got involved, I realized there were companies doing good work, creating value and delivering that value, but it wasn't pervasive. Then over the years, we've just kept working the process. And now we see a lot going on. The unfortunate thing about what's happened today is people are picking up ROI as the flag they're going to fly, but they misrepresent it, or they misuse it, or they miscommunicate what it is, how it works, and why we need it. And that's the unfortunate thing. So
Well, I'm
we're
going to stop you there because
okay.
this is part of what we're going to tell,
Okay.
because it creates confusion.
It
It
creates
creates,
confusion.
and
People
and
people create confusion. It does not. People create the
yeah,
confusion around it. Yeah,
well, because they're using it for virtue signaling in the way instead of for
that's
its
right.
fundamental purpose. But I think,
Right.
but Jack, going to you now on this. Because again, folks, we're not going to focus today on this show on how to do impact, okay? How to do ROI. Jack and Patty have 100 books, have a great program. There are ways for independent companies, consultants to actually get trained and certified in this work. And I hope I live to see the day where you have 1,000 people doing this for you instead of 100. And it should be far more because any business can benefit from it. And it isn't even that complicated. But anyway, Jack, so what has stood in the way of this? I mean, it would seem this is like total quality management for people. It's done in factories, I think over 1 million factories in the world. Implement a strategic and systematic approach to quality. And what the Japanese have learned that we haven't is that people are the major component, and that if you don't address the people issue, your systems will fail. So why is such a logical process? You agree, there are many companies. I know big companies use your services. You're well known, respected, but I think on a scale of 1 to 10, we're maybe two on the journey. So what's your view on that? Am I wrong about
Yeah.
the two? And why
No,
isn't it 10?
yeah, 2 out of 10. That's probably about where we are because it's so much to do. So we keep track of what gets in the way uh, clearly, and the big one by far is fear of outcome. They don't often tell us up front, but we see it and finally uncover it. There's a concern that my project or my program doesn't deliver impact value and consequently a positive ROI. And if it doesn't, then I'm in trouble as a provider or as a promoter or user. And so that's that's a short-sighted view because when you have a business and you're offering something, you want to test it to make sure it's delivering value in the first place. It's usually not the content of the process or the substance or what you're offering. It's how it's being used and implemented in an organization, often where it breaks down. So, but there's a fear to go there, or the fear of the unknown there. And so we all the time we keep saying to people, be proactive. Don't wait for the request. The worst thing that can happen is implement a huge recognition program, for example, have it running for a year and not planning to show the value, and you get that surprise. So, what's the ROI of this program now that we've implemented it and been using it for a year? You see, if you haven't planned it, uh, as you said earlier, when we're off camera, you got to design for it. And that's the key, designing for the impact that you want. If you haven't done that, there's a good chance it probably is not working so well. And so now you're in trouble because you'll have a short timeline to get data. An executive is not going to wait months for you to figure this out. They want something pretty quickly. And second, uh, you are now defensive and defending a program you've implemented. You want to be on the offense. We say you should drive this bus, not let someone else drive it. And the third thing is you let ROI get on someone else's agenda. Put it on your agenda and keep it there. So be proactive. Patty's got a quote that we use around the office here. I'm going to quote her now when she says, when it comes to delivering results from your program, hope is not a strategy, luck is not a factor, and doing nothing is not an option. Things are changing in terms of our accountability. Change is inevitable, but progress is optional. It's up to you.
Well, Patty, that's a great transition to the question for you, because I do think there's a change after all of these years. But I want to get your view, and I don't. I agree with. Well, we agree. I think on the two, maybe you give it. Maybe you're an optimistic and would say three. But I think it's because another factor, and I think that is the number one, Jack, number one. But I think the number two is the CEOs aren't asking the right questions. They aren't asking these questions. In other words, that's why these people are getting away with it. Because I think a lot of CEOs, but Patty, please tell me what you think. They're not trained in this. They haven't learned about it in school. If they've taken a half a class on behavioral economics, maybe. None of them even know what a human capital ROI metric is. I bet you would not know how to do the calculation for human capital value add. So isn't the problem really our CEOs aren't asking the right questions? The boards aren't asking the right questions? Or am I wrong?
Well, I mean, I think CEOs know how to do ROI. ROI is ROI. We're not making up we're not making up the formula. It's the standard formula. So I give them credit there. They know how to calculate the ROI. I think they're not asking the questions because they're trusting the people that they've delegated the effort to. And unfortunately, they're accepting what is shown to them. I think that's the problem, though. They're not asking. And so people are investing with hope, hoping it's going to work. With any luck, it will. And that gets to that quote Jack said, we're waiting for the ask. And unfortunately, when we wait for the ask, they want it tomorrow. Our partner in Malaysia sent a front page of a newspaper from Kuala Lumpur, from Malaysia, and on the front of it it's talking about the Prime Minister of Malaysia is calling all of his department heads throughout the government to demonstrate the ROI on AI on labor productivity, and he wants it in a month. So what that does is put all of these managers and these leaders in crisis mode. So they stop everything else they're doing so they can demonstrate the value of AI. That's what happens. They don't ask right now, but when they do, they want it. So I don't put it, they're not asking the right questions. They may not think it can be done because
Yeah.
those who report to them have influenced that. But what we are finding is that more and more are asking the question, and when they do, things get done. And it's unfortunate it gets done that way. It's unfortunate we have to wait to be asked to hold ourselves accountable for the resources bestowed upon us, to ensure that we are efficient with the use of those resources, to want to see what programs are working and what is not, so we can improve the outcomes. That is unfortunate, but that
Yeah.
is the way things operate, as you know. So
So, Jack, it
Yeah.
seems to me that in many cases, well, we instinctively think we have to measure. So we come up with the wrong measures.
Yeah.
Tell me if I'm wrong. In other words, we usually measure activities. Well, how many people read our Facebook page? How many people liked it? How many people
Yeah.
shared it, right? Or how many people came to our event, right? But there's no holistic approach that links these or again, tell me if I'm wrong. What is often lacking is a holistic approach done in total quality management, master measurement processes, statistical process controls that you folks grew up with that correlate activities with outcomes. So, am I wrong? But because of this lack of understanding of what you folks do and apparent have really, obviously pioneered,
Yeah.
is that people don't know what to measure.
Exactly. They measure the things that they easy to measure, and that's how many people are involved, how many people are attending, how many people are there, and also getting your feedback. Do you like this process? Maybe some activities around what you've learned, and maybe sometimes what you're doing with what you learn. But the executive's interests peak when you get to the consequence of their activity, and that is the impact. Impact and ROI is what the executives want. And so some of the implementers basically tell the executives, look, you got to invest in people. This is a way to invest in people. And this is pretty soft stuff. And so you won't see an ROI, but you want your people to be great, right? And we want a great place to work, right? Then don't worry about the ROI. Just put these programs in place. So just think about engagement that you work in so much. The early days of investing in engagement programs for employees, they were sold on the basis that say, have a vision of what disengagement looks like. You know, unproductive, mistakes, not working, that's what it looks like. Engagement's going to take care of that. So we got to spend money to avoid the disengaged. And they invested because you don't want that image of disengagement. But then we began to say, hey, engagement is powerful. It connects to productivity, customer satisfaction, retention, quality, safety, all of those things. It's probably the most important measure we can have. But there was still a reluctance to go to ROI. And then we we began to do a lot of that. Finally wrote a book on how do you measure the ROI of employee engagement. And so, and now it's becoming a lot more common. We see more of it there, and it helps um, an executive feel better about it. So yes, it's a good thing to do. And yes, it helps us create a great workplace. But now I see it's a good investment. So I'm going to defend that and support it and keep it and not worry about cutting that back just when we have a little dip in the economy.
Well, Patty, I recently had a debate with a former president of one of the biggest companies in the engagement business, and he's a technology company. He's not an agency, but I showed him the work that we're doing on measuring the impact of a channel engagement program, in which you correlate all of the different activities, not just what sales were, but did they engage in the co-op program? Did their salespeople do the learning program? Did they actively read the newsletters with the updated information? What were their engagement scores? And you correlate all of that, and you look at that. Well, and I said to him, isn't this something that's very important? He said, oh, it's done all the time. Done all the time.
Hmm.
Is that really done all the time? Honestly, how many times would you say that in marketing, for instance, that people really have a holistic approach? That companies look at not only the impact, but correlate the things that they did with that impact so that we not only know the impact, but we know how to improve through continuous improvement. Is that a common practice in marketing? And I know you've worked in this Fortune 500 companies.
Yeah. So the latter, not so much. So what we do see is people will look at, and it's more of a macro level look at what's going on in the organization. So if you invest in these activities, statistically show that investment is correlated to these measures over here. That's statistics, right? And Jack's got degrees in it. I taught it in a doctoral program. I get it. We do statistics. We're quantitative people, but we also know that a statistic is an estimate of what probably is maybe. It is what it is, right? It is not truth. It's just, it is what it is. And so, yes, we see those macro level studies. What is missing is what you said toward the end of what you were saying just now, is that really looking at it not just at a macro level where you're looking at inputs and how they statistically rate to these higher level outcomes, but what's happening going on. There are 4 questions that we need to be able to answer when someone asks us or when we present results or data or value of our programs and projects. And those 4 questions are, so what, how much, how do you know, what is it worth? So what? You're telling me you invested in these programs. So what did people think about them? What did they learn? Did they build the skill? What are they doing with them? And how did it improve output, quality, cost, and time? How much? How much did those measures that matter most actually improve? How do you know? How do you know it was due to your program or that investment, not something else? And what is it worth? That's the ROI. How much did it help us make, save, or avoid? And then what did it cost us to make, save, and avoid that amount? People forget the denominator. People love to say, well, I invested in people analytics. And as a result of my investment in people analytics, we reduced turnover. Okay, tell me, how much was that reduction worth? And then how much did it cost you? How much was that investment to deliver that? If we saved the organization $750,000, but it cost $1 million to save 750, is that efficient use of resources? Of course not. And that's where people often lose the concept of ROI. It is about efficient use of resources. We can do a lot of good things for a little bit of money. We can have huge ROIs for a little bit of money, but we often don't want to count that denominator because sometimes we're not getting a lot done for a lot of money. And it goes back to what Jack said at the outset. People are afraid we're spending too much money for what we're doing. But if we really think through things at the beginning before we ever invest, we can sort out what's the value of improving these measures and is it worth pursuing? If it is, how can we get there the most effectively, but also the most efficiently? And that's what's going to get us to ROI.
Well, really the
Yeah.
point here is that, instead of being defensive and waiting until the CEO comes in and says what's going on, you build that into your process
Yep,
design
Yeah.
in a collaborative way, right?
that's
And
right.
one of the things we see Jack missing all of the time is a systematic approach. And you see it on social media, which you guys may be too wise to avoid. But there's so much noise and platitudes and all these companies making claims. You're going to lower, turnover. You're going to gain retention. All right, prove it. Do you know I have never seen anybody, they always Gallup, they always talk about somebody else's study. Okay, tell me what happened at your client's company. All right, tell us. What happened when they used your recognition program? Humana, humana, humana. You never get an answer. And and you folks come from physics, the world, I mean, you do, Jack, in engineering, right?
Yeah.
Numbers, well, they do lie all the time, as we've
all the
learned.
time.
Mhm.
But the bottom line is it takes a system, doesn't it, Jack? It takes a system.
Right. So yeah, it's in my video just now, you see a 12-step process.
Yeah.
That's a system to do this. And it starts with why. Why are we doing this? Why is the business measure? So we start with the business measure up front, make sure it's the right solution. Then we expect success. Then we implement the program. Then we collect the data. And then with that data, we do something that Patty just pointed out, and that is sort out the effects of what this program has done compared to other influences. That's where marketing often loses it. We got a campaign going on, sales go up. Um, they don't do a good enough job these days of sorting out the effects of that particular marketing campaign. You can do it. We can do it. We always do it. It's one of our standards. And then when we sort it out, we get have a conservative approach to get to the monetary value, and then we bring in the cost, calculate ROI, but we have huge intangibles. Those are the ones that we couldn't convert to money credibly with a reasonable amount of time, leave as intangible. Now we tell a story, and then we're going to leverage that for good things going forward. I just described those 12 steps. It's not that difficult. So you
No,
need
it's
a system.
proven all the time in total quality management. That was, you know what? If you guys were coming down from the mountain with something with the Ten Commandments that no one had ever seen before, and they, oh, Jack and Patty, who the heck are you? Why should we listen to you? Then I'd say, okay, well, maybe, but no, it's proven everything. Go to Toyo's factory in Tokyo or whatever, and you're going to see your principles, this fundamental principles that you use, and or Deming came up
Yeah.
with, and Peter Drucker. So let me ask you this, Patty, because this is going to change, and I know it's going to change, and it will have taken a lifetime. It will have taken a generation, I believe, for companies to recognize this. But let me tell you what I think the real driver is. And it's going to be CEOs, right? We know this isn't going to change until CEOs wake up to it. We just had a great show last week with two leading business professors, Edward Freeman, and Gary Rhodes, who are leading experts in management, and both said also, we're very early in this. Okay, it's still early stage. But what I think is going to change it is investors. I think at
Yeah.
the end of the day, there is growing evidence that there's enormous waste in companies. And I don't know whether you are familiar with the work of Dan Ariely of Duke University on irrational capital, the human capital factor, which, folks, is the most biggest endorsement for using the work of these two people, okay, because they have found through incredible, incredible analysis, it's been validated by JP Morgan's quantitative division, and they have not paid them for that. It is an independent validation. And it's also been tested in the stock market because there are several ETFs that are based on the methodology, and it has been predictive of 4% per year future equity value creation. That is extraordinary, and that outpaces any hedge fund predictor. Okay, very few outperform the S&P 500 over multiple years. So my point to you is, and my question to both of you is, do you think that in the end, that kind of information is what's going to finally change minds? Because it doesn't show up on our balance sheets, right? It's not on all that waste. Where does that show up? Goodwill, right? So is that the ultimate thing, economics?
I think so. I think it's going to be about the investor. It's about the investors, about the customer. It is about the member of the association. And so we have to look at those customers and then the ultimate investors. But you have to look at customers, the people who are paying the bill, as investors in whatever it is. And we don't do that. So I chair a board for an association, and love it. But all associations, nonprofit associations, are struggling with members. Part of it is, what is the benefit? There's so much more that we can get for free. And if we don't look at our members and our customers as investors, then we do miss that opportunity, or I guess it's missing the opportunity to think like a business. And I know a lot of people don't like that, but that's what we are, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
Jack,
what
she's
we do.
making this, we're running out of time, so I'm
I'm
slightly
sorry, sorry.
interrupting because there's a headline here.
Yeah.
What you're basically saying is your stakeholders are your investors. Your stakeholders, that customer is spending their money, that employee is giving you their time and their effort, that supply chain partner, that distribution partner helping you, your bit is actually investing in you. Jack, is that kind of what she's saying?
Yeah, exactly. And your investors and your board of directors and your members are really want you to have a culture of accountability. We work a lot in culture these days, and when you bring that mix into what people do, there's accountability around what they do. There's goals that they set. They have a commitment to make those goals, and they have a commitment to make things better when it's not working. So that culture of accountability. If I were a board member, I would require my CEO to look at making sure that your people have that accountability mindset throughout, showing the value of what they do, helping others see the value of what they do. It makes a big difference. So yeah, I think we've got to all push this together to make it work. If we wait, it's just like AI. Uh, the AI platforms and subscription services won't show you the ROI of using them. We're going to have to force that on them. We're going to have to demand it on them. One of our books is the book, The Value of Innovation. This is where we get into the AI field. And AI is yet to be proven. It's getting closer, it's getting better, but still questioning that, just like that prime minister in Malaysia is saying, there's a productivity paradox around AI. It's not really true. And so we got to see it. And he's demanding in one month to show that, or we're going to stop a lot of this nonsense. So we'd be happy to also provide this book, ROI Marketing, that you talked
Well, yeah,
about.
let's mention that book for 1 minute as a closer. Okay.
Yeah.
I've been in marketing my entire life. I have worked with the biggest clients. I have friends who are executives or have been at the biggest clients, ad agencies. I don't think marketing is measured personally. I think some is blah, 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 but I think a lot of it is focused on metrics, not, on activity metrics, as Patty was saying before. And to me, the biggest single measure of marketing is identifying and building the relationships of people that are going to buy. And
Yeah.
how do you build those relationships? What are the levers of those relationships? And what are the outcomes of those relationships and the impact? And I don't see many companies doing that. Am I wrong?
No.
No.
Mm-mm. No, we see the same thing. It's too easy. People focus on the measures that are easy for them to focus on. And in marketing, especially now with digital marketing, it is so easy to focus on, the reach, right? How many followers, how many influence, the activity of what we do is close, is easy, but that's activity. Activity represents cost, costs get cut, right? I mean, everybody's busy. Marketing is very busy these days. Everybody's busy. But what is it that you're really trying to do? What is the information that people need to know so that they will do what you want them to do, so it will deliver the impact you're trying to achieve? Those are the measures that matter, but it's just very easy to focus on that activity.
So,
Yeah.
Jack, we could talk all day because this is so much fun, but we're going to have to go. And I know you're busy. So, let me ask you, Jack, with the last word. We're at two, and we want to get to 10 because it's just common sense, right? To drive
Yeah.
with both headlights when you're driving, I think makes sense. We're not going to change the accounting. The GAT rules in accounting took 30 years to develop. We are not going to get the GAT rules to be changed for a human capital in our lifetimes on balance sheets, although there are a lot of efforts. And I think that would help, Patty. If the investor could see the enormous waste of that $20 million recognition program that didn't do a bloody thing, right? or that stock buyback that really didn't, we spent all this money on a stock buyback and then we had a strike from our underpaid employees that cost us $5 billion.
That's right.
I mean, what? So Jack, how hopeful are you that in our lifetimes, and I think the three of us still have some plenty of energy to go. Do you think we might get to six in our lifetimes? A recognition that human capital can be measured, that marketing can be measured, and just like in the factory, just like in the grocery stores, like Trader Joe's, we can run our companies according to effective and meaningful metrics that actually motivate people. Because when you do it right, they can see their success and they celebrate. How far along do you think we can get to six in our lifetimes?
Well, that may be too optimistic. We've been on a journey. It's slow improvement. If we can get to that tipping point that Malcolm Gladwell talks about, and we don't know where that is, but where it just takes off, it becomes a way of life. It's going to happen someday, I think. I don't know how much it takes to get there, but I'd say in our lifetime, if we can get it to five, I think I'm happy. I could check out with that.
Well, Patty, I'll give you one last word, but I'm maybe older than you guys. I don't know. But I was lived through total quality management as a young journalist.
Yep.
I
Yeah,
followed it. It took 20 years and it still isn't properly adopted in the United States for the most part. They missed the people part.
yeah.
Uh, so I saw it happen though. And TQM now, there's an association with 300,000 members in one of the biggest trade shows every 2 years in the United States. So when that tipping point happens, and it could happen in our lifetimes. So, but Patty, what do you think? Am I insane, or could we see that tipping point in our lifetime?
I think we could. I know I can't in my lifetime. I'm just saying. But I remember TQM2. It's not, but here's the challenge. It is the shiny object
Yeah.
syndrome because I remember when I was working utility, it was during the TQM days that we had our little charts and then it stopped because there was something shinier that came. And that's unfortunate. And what we're doing here is so fundamental. It is so fundamental to business. It is not, even though it came out of rocket science, came out of Lockheed, it is not rocket science. It is you're investing in your people, your programs, your projects. What are you delivering and what is it worth? That is it. It is benefits versus cost. And and then all the measures along the way to ensure that we can make decisions about that. So while we may get to ROI, we have to answer the question, okay, again, so what? What do we do with this? What are we going to improve? But it's just process improvement. That's all it is. 12 steps, process improvement. But you're right. I agree. I mean, we're still seeing TQM and many other processes that aren't working as they should or could. And it's because of the shiny thing in front of us. But I do think that we can see that 5%, maybe even that 6%
Well,
in
and you
our
have
lifetime.
analytics going for you folks. We've never had
Yeah,
the type of analytics tools we
that's
have
right.
before.
We've got the tools that we didn't have. Yeah.
Well, one thing I would suggest as a little exercise today, ask ChatGPT 5 for its opinion on the future of what you're doing. I think you'll find it to be a very interesting exploration. Well, thank you so much for your time. We hope to also share a lot more information about what you folks are doing and other programs focusing on the how-to. But the best thing I recommend is for people to go to roiinstitute.com, I think is the website, and
.net. .net.
.net,
Yeah.
roiinstitute.net, and you will find a wealth of information on how to get started and create value for your own career. Because professionals who master these tools won't wait for the CEO to come in and say, what the heck is the ROI? They'll launch their program telling the CEO what they anticipate the ROI to be and why. So thanks again for your time, and please stand by for one little piece of housekeeping and I'll let you go. Thanks,
Yeah.
Jack and Patty.
Thank, thank you,
Thank you.
Bruce.
Thank you.